Does submission mean losing your voice? Because a lot of women are actually afraid of getting into marriage because of this topic of submission. But really, what is submission? Submission is voluntarily giving yourself under the leadership of somebody else. That is, you're telling the person you have authority over me. However, there is a striking thing to note about submission. Submission does not mean losing your voice. Submission does not mean you do not have a say. Submission does not mean that you have to be treated unfairly. Submission does not mean that you have to be treated without respect. Now, what most people understand by submission really is not the matter or the topic of submission. It is the topic of subjugation. Now, I'm going to differentiate what submission means and what subjugation means. And by the time I'm done, I'll give you about 3 or 4 differences. You would see that submission is not really a bad thing in itself. So the first thing is that submission is something given willingly. It is not given by force. It is not taken by force. It is given by choice. However, on the other hand, subjugation is when you do not even have a choice, when you just have to do what somebody else is telling you to do with fear, with manipulation, and with you feeling a bit of threat that, oh, if I do not do what this person is saying, there might be harm. I might get hurt. I'm afraid that something will come or there will be a consequence for not doing what the other person is saying you should do. Meanwhile, submission is something that you do willingly out of choice. With submission, you still get to keep your voice. You still get to say a no when you feel like things are not being done in the right way. You still get to air your own opinion. You still get to logically explain why you think things should be done the way you want them to be done. However, with subjugation, you don't get a say. You don't even say anything. Once a matter or a decision is taken, you just have to align with it. It doesn't matter if you feel treated unfairly. It doesn't matter if you feel cheated. It doesn't matter if you feel disrespected. But with submission, that is not the case. You're submitting yourself under the leadership of somebody who will take your own opinion very importantly, who would value whatever you're saying, who would value your input, who you know that at the end of the day, whatever decision you're taking or making together is something that will favor the cause of both of you, not just one person's cause. And with submission, very importantly, is that you still have your peace. You still feel safe. You feel respected. However, with subjugation, it is usually done in an unhealthy environment where you already lost your voice, where you already feel like your self-worth is nothing, where your self-esteem has been tampered with, where you already feel very unfairly treated, where you feel very disrespected, when you feel like if you speak, you might be abused physically, emotionally, even you can be abused verbally. So that is not the case of submission. Submission does not mean that whatever the man says, I must do. No, submission means that whatever decision that is made at the end of the day, I would align with it because we have both weighed the pros and cons of the matter that is being discussed, and we have seen that this favors the cause of the marriage. So submission really is not a bad thing. Submission means that you are leaving the leadership role to somebody else to take that decision, and you are trusting the fact that that person would also take your opinion, would value your own opinion in making that decision. That is what submission is.